Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is my favorite type of session. This is an introduction of a new solution, and one that I am particularly excited about, the vendor management solution. So thank you for coming. I know we're getting a little late in the afternoon, and that beach can be very tempting, so I feel honored that you've come here instead of out there visiting the ocean. We're going to start with a quick introduction of Appian Acquisition Solutions, and then we'll go right into discussing our new vendor management solution, and then we'll end on a demonstration. So let me introduce myself. So my name is Ben Allen. I'm a director at Appian. I'm responsible for our acquisition solutions. I've been at Appian for about 20 years now. I'm in my 20th year. 18 of those years, was that a woo? That was awesome. I've never gotten a woo during. We should do more of that during the presentation. So I've been at Appian 20 years. 18 of those was spent on acquisition projects. I was telling somebody last night at the social, I got assigned to an acquisition project very early on in my career, and I loved it. They kind of looked at me like, what is wrong with you? But I did. I really loved it. I love buying things. I thought the government process of buying things was very interesting. So I then just went from acquisition project to acquisition project for about 18 years. And then recently I joined the solutions group to create acquisition solutions, prepackaged solutions for the marketplace. And was able to continue my enthusiasm for acquisition. And I mention that because up with me today is Amy Horton, who is a manager, senior manager in our engineering group, who I think of her as responsible for channeling my enthusiasm into these solutions, into something that we can bring to market and you guys can take and gain value from. So she's got a very tough job. I'm very excited to have her up here presenting with me. She's going to do the demonstration portion today. I'm going to start with what I think of as the vegetable portions of our session, which are the slides. I'm going to introduce the solution space a little bit and then talk about vendor management and what the thought process was behind creating vendor management and the capabilities that we created. And then Amy's going to come up here for the dessert portion, and she's going to actually show it to you, a demonstration of it so you can see it in action. So with that, I always like to start with this slide because some people, when they say, oh, you have an acquisition solution, is it a new coded product or something like that? No. All of our solutions are created on the Appian platform. So that could be vendor management or requirements management or word management, clause automation, source selection. All of our acquisition solutions are created on the low-code platform. And we do that because so many of these features are a perfect fit for acquisition. So when we think specifically about vendor management, we think about a lot of documents. Often that interaction with vendors is in the solicitation phase. So we need to get them that solicitation, and then we need to receive back from them the proposals. So we're using things like records. We're creating those opportunities for them to see these opportunities to respond and then actually respond. We're taking those documents, we're using the document management, we're using our security. This is a bit of a unique solution. The other solutions that we've built have been for a broad acquisition community, but it was often the government. It was always, well, I'm contracting, or I'm program office, or I'm legal, or I'm policy, all government users. Now we're bringing in vendors, outside parties, and we're dealing with acquisition data. So we needed really strong security, and that's what that Appian group security is providing us all the way down to the document level to make sure that all of that is secured so the right people are seeing the right things at the right time. All that's wrapped in process, that workflow management behind the scenes as we go through the government acquisition process, making sure that all the steps are accounted for and that everything is auditable if you ever need to go back there and check it. We also have great new features with some of the latest capabilities that are in the platform that we're beginning to leverage, things like RPA or AI or all of our integrations that we have out of the box that make it easier to share data, to push and pull data, to remove some of that clerical work from a lot of the contracting force that feels like they're just clerking data between systems, and allow them to actually automate that and spend more time as strategic business advisors. So we love creating these solutions on the Appian platform. I'm biased. I see everything as an acquisition solution, and every new capability as an acquisition solution. So when I see these blocks and building pieces of a low-code platform, I immediately think acquisition. So I briefly mentioned that we have a suite of solutions. Vendor management is the fifth, joining our growing suite of solutions. I affectionately call this the family picture. Someone asked me, could you put these solutions in order of the acquisition process? And I said, no, I cannot, because this is the order we release them in. These are like my kids, and I think of them as requirements management, award management, source selection. I don't care what order you think they should go in. So we've kept it this way. I apologize if you would prefer to see it a different way. But let me go through them real quick, and I will go in order of my oldest to my youngest, and I'll brag about them for a little bit. And I won't mention that I have this in my wallet as well, so if you see me later, like, what did requirements management look like when it first came out? Well, all babies are cute. So requirements management. We built this solution because we were hearing so often from the government, either contracting or program office, that it was difficult to input their requirements, to track their requirements, to know where they were in the process. And so we wanted to help demystify that process for both the program office, make it easier to enter their requirements in the system, but also for contracting, when they receive those requirements, to receive something that they could actually take for action, not something they're going to spend the next 3 to 4 months going back and forth. You forgot this, you didn't do this review, we need this file, this document you didn't even fill out. So we were able to create wizard-driven processes, templates that we could provide to the users that would auto-populate automatically, and then have a collaborative platform with contracting. So contracting could be aware of these requirements earlier, could advise the customer on them, and then have that solid, actionable package that they could take forward. So that's requirements management. Award management was the next one, and we really said, well, we've done great things for requirements management. What about the other side of that equation? I had a requirement, now I have a contract. I still have very similar problems with it. My contract is a piece of paper, and it doesn't alert me of very important things like period of performance dates. It doesn't say, hey, I'm about to expire in 6 months. Maybe you should think about either a follow-on action or exercising an option. So we wanted to create a solution that managed that, proactively alerted users to say, this is how much funding you have left, this is how much period of performance you have left, or this is your last option period, and you should maybe start thinking out 9 months to 12 months in advance about what your next contract is going to look like. That's award management. Source selection was our third solution, and that was meant to automate the process of selecting vendors, and I think there's a lot of common functionality that we'll see between what we're doing in vendor management and the source selection solution. So receiving those proposals, assigning them out to evaluators, having those evaluators enter their evaluations in the system, aggregating those results, coming up with a consensus rating, and then selecting your awardee. Clause automation was built more for the contracting folks. Most of our other solutions have a sort of broad user base that will be interacting with it, but clause automation is really for your contract specialist and your contracting officer, making that process of selecting their clauses easier, more repeatable, more accurate, and up to date. We have an integration with acquisition.gov that brings in those clauses automatically, keeps them up to date, so they don't have to worry about, was there a new FAQ update? Do we have the most recent language? Have I filled in all my fill-ins? The clause automation solution will help shepherd them through that process. And that brings us to the fifth one, vendor management. I'm going to go into the details of that in the next couple slides, but I want to mention here that we view the integrations with these other solutions as something that's very important to us. We don't want to just do vendor management for maybe just solicitations. Source selections is a very common use case where, hey, I have a solicitation out there. I would love it if my vendor could just upload their proposals into the system, and then I wouldn't have to do it manually. I being contracting, I like to pretend that I'm contracting. So we want to save them a lot of time. There's a lot you can automate there. But there's also requirements management. You're doing market research. You want to put a survey out there. You need to interact with the vendor. I mean, how many of us have sent a document to the government and then realized it's 15 megs or 16 and it's going to bounce and you can't respond? Or maybe worse, there's a due date and you need to get it in a timely fashion and email just isn't cutting it. So requirements management, I think there's a good use case for the integration with vendor management. Also award management, allowing vendors to see their contracts and also have processes and documents that are associated with those contracts that they can upload in the vendor management solution. Maybe less on clause automation, but there's some vendor fill-ins where I think there's a good use case for that as well. So why vendor management? And I touched on this a little bit, but it's really about those manual processes. Dealing with vendors on the contracting side and even for the vendor side is very manual. You're sending documents back and forth. You're relying on email. I love this middle icon. I'm going to use it in every presentation because I can see this in the customers when they describe some of their acquisition pain points to me. And a lot of that is how much time they spend in email, receiving those documents back, filing those documents, noting the time that it came in, confirming the receipt. I mean, whenever we send in a proposal, we're always like, here's my proposal, please email back and confirm that you received it. I can't imagine how long that takes when you have 10, 15, 30 different vendors that are responding to a given proposal. So we wanted to help alleviate that reliance on email, bring those documents into the system, bring that data into the system, make it auditable, make it reportable. No automation, and this is just a common theme throughout. There are so many areas that we could help automate this process, and we wanted to begin tackling those with vendor management using things like RPA or AI or integrations and make contracting's lives easier. We didn't want to just focus on solicitation, and I mentioned that a moment ago. I think a lot of solutions are very focused on I have an opportunity out there, I need to get proposals back, I need to award this, but there are so many other great use cases for interacting with your vendors earlier in the process or later in the process. And you're going to see as we continue to roll out functionality in vendor management, we're going to address those use cases and broaden that view of what vendor management can be. So maybe you have an award, you want to access the latest contract file, you want to see that latest modification that was just issued. Maybe you need to update your training and you need to update those documents and have them checked off. Maybe your GFE, you need to do your yearly certification that you have a laptop. All that can be handled in a system like vendor management. And then finally, dated systems that limit vendor participation. This one I added personally because there is a system that one of the states uses that I cannot register for. For the life of me, I cannot get past the "Are you a robot?" which is really troubling for me. Because I'll just like look at am I a robot? But I then got past that, and they're supposed to send you a confirmation email, which I never got. So what do? I make the AE, the account executive, email me all the documents that he manually downloads from the site instead of send me a link. And that's no way to treat a vendor. I mean, vendors, we need to reduce the barrier of entry for them interacting and proposing, allow them to provide new solutions and have access, and anything we can do to make it easier for those vendors to do that, the better. So a couple more slides, and we're going to turn it over to the demo. So what did we do? How did we do that? So we created a central place for the vendors to log in and see their opportunities. Also be able to flag opportunities that they're interested in, see the opportunities that are in progress that they're responding to. Maybe they've submitted Q&A already. Maybe that Q&A has come back. Be able to see those notifications and be able to interact with the system very smoothly and tailored to them and their experience. It's also for contracting. So when they log in, they'll see the opportunities they have out on the street and they'll be able to manage it, but from a different interface. That's the Appian Group's security, making sure that the right people are seeing the right information. The interfaces really look different depending on who you are in the system and what you should see. We also wanted to automate the ability to respond and the ability to note the receipt of those responses and audit it if you needed to. Again, no more of that email back and forth confirming that you received it. We wanted to have correspondence baked into the application. Again, removing as much as we can from email, adding it to the application, making it available, especially for reassignment of a user. If you were working the opportunity and then you left, be able to see all of that correspondence that's happened before you joined and not have to ask for access to someone's email inbox. And then also, time savings for the vendor registration. We wanted to take some of that workload off the government of getting those vendors in the system. We wanted to give them self-registration and their ability to manage their own accounts within the system. How do we do that? We have a wizard-driven opportunity creation. So contracting can come in, enter their opportunity, or pull information from other systems related to that opportunity so they're not rekeying it into the system, as well as be able to use our integration tier and maybe push those opportunities out as well if you need to post it to another system. We're going to have opportunity dashboards, similar to the dashboards that you may be familiar with in requirements management and award management. It's that central hub for an opportunity where all your structured data, all your unstructured data, any integrations about it can all take place from one central location. You don't have to go looking into multiple systems to find that data. Document management, we've talked about a number of times, very important in this solicitation phase, either providing out those documents to the vendors or receiving back those documents from the vendors. We need to secure it. We need to file it in the contract file, or maybe we need to send it into source selection so we can start that source selection process without requiring the users to manually load any of that data. Correspondence, keeping it again within the application, letting the vendor have self-registration, and then automate the filings of those notifications in the contract file, just saving the contracting officer and contract specialist time as they go through the process. So with that, we're on to the fun portion. So let me invite Amy up, and she's going to step you through the vendor management solution.
So I'm really excited to show you our fifth family member. So I'm going to show you a series of videos. Huh?
Does that make us the parents?
Yes, we're parents. So the fifth solution, vendor management, I'm going to show you a series of videos. I want to set a little bit of context first. Before we get to our dashboard, you're going to see a little video, but at this point, the vendor has registered. So right now, I'm a registered vendor. I've got an email. I've got a sign on and a log on. I'm not just a general unauthorized vendor in the system. I'm not showing you that part of it, but I did want to explain that up front before we started. So here, what we see is the dashboard where you're going to get your opportunity statuses. You're going to have a list of my opportunities. You're also going to have that calendar that's going to pinpoint key dates of due dates for questions or responses of all the ones that you've marked that you're interested in. You're also going to have an opportunities tab that will allow you to see the record list of all the opportunities that are listed in the system. These are ones that I can sort, filter, and work on. You also have then your profile tab, so you can go in and manage all your own vendor information, so you ensure that your data is correct with that vendor. So this is very key to making sure that you've got the right expiration dates out there. You know, they have the right numbers so that your bid can actually continue through. The other thing I wanted to note on this is that it's going to look very similar for the contracting user. When they log into that, they're going to see that same dashboard, but they're going to see the opportunities they're in charge of, and they're going to see their dates as well to be able to guide them through that process, so they don't have to be bogged down with always searching and filtering. And just play the video again. So for the next video, what we're going to talk about is the summary. I want to click into that opportunity record, and I want to see what is there. So we are basically showing you there that the proposal documents are there, and we are trying to upload proposal documents. So instead of having to email your proposal documents, you're now going to be able to just upload them into the system. You drag and drop them in there. You can do bulk upload. You don't have to do one at a time. That's just the way that I did this video. And we can then map them to the required documents so that you can ensure that you're uploading all the documents that you need for this proposal before you submit it. So you can map it, you can write a description, you can be able to process everything that you need and then review it. If it's not right, you just go back and fix it. So after you hit the upload, you'll actually see that the screen changes. You can clearly see that you've uploaded all of the required documents for this proposal. You can upload more, but we're not going to let you submit anything until you have all of those required documents out there. So you can see the action came up at the top. So you have all the data in front of you to allow for you to continue processing this in any way you want to. You can also upload question documents. So instead of having to email your contracting officer a spreadsheet or a Word document and wondering if it got lost in their email, you just upload it here, and then they're immediately going to see it. And they're going to have their own section on the summary that says, view all my question documents. They can then post a notice with all of the responses so that everybody can download it and see it. They can see the attachments. They can just download them right from there. You can see the little download icon that we have there to allow you to download anything that you need. Okay. So after you review everything and you're looking at the summary, you can see that we have lots of information. We're modeling it very similar to sam.gov. And when you go back to the home page, you can actually see your things have updated, you've changed. You now have one that's in progress. Because you haven't submitted it yet, we haven't changed that status. So it's very easy to see what the due dates are and what you need to work on going forward to make sure that you don't miss those key dates. That's really hard to manage. If I went back into the opportunity, I can then submit the proposal. But maybe it's because it's before the due date, I didn't mean to hit that button. We're going to allow you to withdraw it. The nice thing here is that we're tracking that history. We're tracking the exact time and date that you submitted that proposal. We're also providing additional information, such as the description and instructions that can be quite lengthy on a different tab so that you can see everything. And the last thing I wanted to show you a little bit more of is something that leads to the future. This is your vendor profile. So we have lots of information in here where you can store all your addresses, your expiration date with SAM, but we're also starting to add NAICS codes and PSC codes. And we're excited about this because we think in the future we'll be able to add some AI and some intelligent routing there so that when you add in your codes that you want to watch out for opportunities, we can automatically suggest to you new ones that have been put on the system on that home page. You don't have to go dig. We're going to suggest ones that have come into the system that match the codes that are in your profile. And a lot of this information on the contracting side, I'm not showing you today. We're still working on that, but it looks very much like this. But they also have a vendor tab. They have a way to register. They can see a full list of their vendors. They can see all this information to allow for that communication to go between you guys, as well as be able to, in the future, be able to assign tasks to your vendors. I need new NDAs. They're only good for a year. You need to submit new ones. That can become a task in the system as opposed to having to email them, wait for them to collect everything, and then send them in and upload them. You would be able to upload it right in this system. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ben to recap our session with you.
Thank you, Amy. I think you can tell we are proud parents of our solution. I think the one thing we didn't mention yet is its release date. So June 3rd.
June 3rd is the first release date. We have features coming out immediately following that we're also very excited about.
So just quickly, I wanted to recap. I mentioned this briefly before, but I want to emphasize it again. In terms of the acquisition solutions we had already in the market, the previous 4, I felt that we were accounting for lots of different acquisition process participants. And I call them participants because it's not just contracting, and it's really not just the program office. It's all of the other people within your organization that need to be part of the acquisition process. We were missing a huge one. We're missing vendors. And there's a lot of information going back and forth between them. So with vendor management, we now have that ability to interact with them in a modern and a seamless way. And we're able to provide them with a good acquisition experience, a modern application that reflects your organization and where you're going with technology. So when they log in, they're not like, was this thing created in the 1990s? Because you want to give them, again, that easy ability to interact with your organization, the ability for them to be able to upload documents and have confidence in the system from a security and from a submission standpoint, and then from the ability to access all of their information. As I mentioned, it's not just going to be solicitation, it's going to be award records, it'll be early market research as well. It will also help them by proactively creating alerts, like Amy was saying, to match vendors up potentially with opportunities they can mark as interesting, and then they can come back to it and respond to it. And then I think there's so many opportunities for integrating additional base product functionality to automate more of this process. So do really cool things with AI. Maybe help make the question and answer portion much easier. Wouldn't it be great if when the vendors submit all their questions, use AI to already map them to similar questions. So contracting isn't answering the same question over and over again 16 times because it keeps coming up. We could stack all of them together and say, here's the same question from 16 different vendors, answer it once, move on, delegate the answering questions to other users. So we have lots of great ideas for these solutions. We also can't wait to get it out there and show it to people, because that's where we get the best feedback, is showing it to customers and prospects and partners and hearing that feedback and being like, yeah, that would be awesome if we could do that. Let's go do it. I mean, that's that connected possibilities that we heard at the keynote today. Having those great ideas, having a platform that allows us to roll out that functionality quickly, and then doing it and keep iterating on this application. So just like the other solutions, you're going to continue to see new releases of vendor management. 1.0 won't be the only release this year. We'll keep bringing out new functionality and releases to come this year. So with that, thank you. If you have any questions, you can come see us. We'll also be outside. You know me, I love to talk about acquisitions, so you don't have to twist my arm to talk to you about vendor management or anything else. But thank you, I really appreciate you attending.